The reading for Module 5 is the text Creating a Sense of Presence, and it's a short, easy read. I'd just like to give you an idea of what presence is and the big picture, so to speak. So let's start with the concept of presence. Presence is, to start with, sometimes a little difficult to wrap our heads around because of the number of definitions and the way they categorize it. It can be a little confusing. But at its core, what is it? Presence is, how do you feel connected to people in a mediated environment? So what is a mediated environment? Any environment that's created by technology becomes a mediated environment. So for example, if you're talking on the phone to someone else, that is a mediated environment through the technology of the phone. Now, when you're talking on the phone to someone else, right, you still feel as if they are there and that you're connected to them, and there is this relationship between the two of you. Although there is the space between you, you don't really feel it. And you feel like you're together, and that is that sense of presence. It's this feeling that you're still in the same room and next to each other, even though you're not. And this concept is interdisciplinary. Communication deals with this. Technology, computer sciences deal with it. Psychology deals with it. So they all look at it in different aspects. And the concept of presence has become very popular in online education because how do you create that sense of we're all together in this course? That's this idea of presence. Some of you have in your discussion posts talked about courses where there was no instructor or there were no discussions and you just go in, do quizzes, complete it, and that's the end of the course. Did you feel any connection over there? That is presence. If you're in a course where you don't really know if there is an instructor or if you're not connected to the people or your classmates, that is a lack of presence. So how can we feel present in these mediated environments? Now, this is a big question that all technology companies have been trying to fathom, and they come up with new ways of creating this presence. Basically, how to create this real experience, right? So for example, in television, when you had TV and they started taking movies and things like that, the idea was they wanted to engage the viewer more in the action, and hence you moved into ideas of 3D where you are almost a participant in that environment, right? So they make it more realistic, or they give you the driver's perspective as if you're sitting in the car and you're driving it. So those are all strategies they use to make you feel presence and be drawn into that experience. Video games do this in all those role-playing games where you take on the role of, the army guy who goes around shooting people, or you are the driver for Grand Theft Auto. I think that's the name. Obviously, I don't play many video games, but they work off the same concept, that you now feel as if you are in that game and you're present in that game. Now, television and video games have managed to do it pretty well, right? And there is that visual component to it. So, how do we do it in online learning? Another example of creating presence would now be things like virtual reality, where of course you feel like you are right there. So what about online learning? How can we create presence in online learning when it is so text heavy, right? I mean, we can't run away from that fact. There is text that has to be handled and managed in online learning because it is learning and education, right? But then how do you still create that sense of presence within that environment? And that's what the book looks at. And there they mention the different types of presence, and I really like the determinants of presence that their model puts forth. And the book is full of strategies on how you as an online instructor can create presence for your learners. Now, some of you might be working in the corporate sector and you might think, how is this relevant to me? Learners are learners irrespective of where they are. They all want to feel that same sense of connection. And so these principles apply across the board. And I've even found that these principles are good practices for face-to-face teaching as well. And as you read this, you'll become more familiar with the ideas there.